All right, are you ready?
Ready?
Okay, and
Go.
then mic check. I think I can hear you pretty loud and clear.
Awesome.
Okay, turn off this audio. Test, test, test. Okay, that one works. Please speak closer. Okay, okay, I think we're good. There's feedback on my end. Welcome, Daniel. What's up? Our first watcher here. We got 3 seconds before we get started. Now, so how would you start a startup? Let's go.
Let's do it. Let's.
Hey everyone, Zen here with another episode of Closed One. This is the noon edition. This is a place where founders learn sales while enjoying lunch. But first, let's go ahead and say hello to our new subscribers. So let's start off with Jessica Carlo. Hey, what is up? Thank you for subscribing. Nice videos. Thanks. Peter Noy. Hey, long time no see, buddy. Diane Myra. Welcome to the show. Boyri BT. Carolyn Rosa. Welcome, welcome, my friend. Winston Lotero. Salman Bunjaran. Last but not least, Gary 101. What is up? Welcome, welcome. I am grateful you are here. I am grateful for your time. And most of all, I am so grateful for your support. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for subscribing. And for those of you who are new here, you know what to do. Smash subscribe. Pablo is the CEO of Nordlearn. Nordlearn is a skills development startup that helps employees take ownership of their growth. He is also the co founder of Coder House. It's a YC startup, Week 21, a web app for live online courses in digital skills with 100K students serving Latin America. Today, Pablo will teach us how to start a startup by giving us 10 startup tips for success. These startup tips are for aspiring entrepreneurs ready to take the leap of faith. And for my first time founders out there who'd like to bootstrap, we're also going to cover how to get your first client. So please help me welcome Pablo Ferreiro. Welcome.
Thank you so much. That was a beautiful introduction. Thank you so much for having me.
I am so happy you are here. I'm so grateful for your time as well. So we got about 30 minutes. Let's start it from the very top. Walk us through your journey. Tell us your childhood. Where were you born, and like what made you want to start a startup?
Sure, sure. Um, well, I was born in Argentina, as you can probably tell from my name, at least from Latin America. Born and raised, but I did live abroad for quite a while, in Brazil, Australia, a couple different places, and I've just kind of had different, been through different education models and different experiences throughout my life. But I was never really a great student. I really did not like studying. Not until probably beginning of high school, where I got the support I needed from my teachers, my family, and that made a huge difference. And I guess that kind of segued into eventually starting a business in the education space. But of course, there's so much in between. But that's kind of the very short description or journey, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. We're gonna get into the in betweens for sure. We're trying to get 10 tips for you on how to start a startup today. But first, walk us through the bootstrapping. Like, how do
Yeah.
you bootstrap? Like, give our founders or aspiring founders three actionable tips, like, first must do's to start your bootstrap startup.
Sure. So, I mean, I think that what comes to mind, number one is you got to be really interested in what you're solving. Money can definitely be something that drives you. But since you're going to be bootstrapping, you won't have too much money in the beginning anyway. So you can really rely on that as your sole motivator. I think solving something that is interesting for you is super important. So in my case, when I started Coder House previously with my co-founder, we both wanted to learn about coding because it was such a important skill. But we could not find anything interest or any solution or any school that really catered to our needs. And so we thought, hey, let's do something better. We know we can do something better. We've felt the problem, and we can't find something that's a solution for us. So we just decided to build our own. So I guess that's one thing is just solve a problem that you have, and I think that's obviously something that you hear a lot, but it's so much easier to solve for something that you care about than for something that you don't. So that's a big one.
Yeah, hey, believe it or not, I'll talk to a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs out there, and I think what you said, which is starting from the problem, is so critical. Most people might miss that because the way they would think is, I have an idea. I have an
Hmm.
idea. I have an idea. And they're not really figuring out what problem are you trying to solve with this idea. And so it's a big misconception to start from an idea. And so I really love this tip. Start with a problem. And real quick, I want to say hi to our audience. Hello, Charlie, Damien, Shar, Jessica, and Jonathan. Tell us, do you have a problem that you want solved? And is there any other products out there that could solve it? And if not, are you also aspiring entrepreneurs? Let us know and ask us any questions here. Pablo's here to give us a lot of actionable tips. All right. So
Let's
that's
do it.
tip number one. Let's go with tip number two,
Sure,
bootstrapping.
sure. Let's do it. So I think again, this is a a lot of the things I'm going to say. You'll definitely find in many different blogs. But one thing that is super important is to be very scrappy. So let me just give you an example of how we were scrappy when we first started and bootstrapped without much money. Um, when we built our very first course. It was actually a cohort based course on web the development, and we finally got our first customer, and he wanted to pay, but we hadn't. I mean, Stripe did not exist at the time, and so we had to figure out a way to get paid. We didn't even
Payment.
have a bank account. We didn't have. We weren't even incorporated yet.
Wow. Yeah, there you go.
So we just yeah. So it was pretty complicated, but we thought, okay, we got to get paid. So what can we do about that? And so I essentially just opened up a Mercado Libre account, which is sort of an eBay for Latin America, and where I just kind of set up a product where I sold some sort of course, but it was actually kind of selling a physical product, but it was actually a course. So I just sent out that link, and they paid us through that way, which was super. Super scrappy, not that great as an experience for the customer, but they were super happy to be able to actually pay. So a lot of these solutions in the beginning are very not elegant and definitely
Mm-hmm.
not scalable, but get the job done, right? They get the job
Yeah.
done.
Yeah, I really like this. Okay, you said something very important. I want to recap it because I had this conversation just a few days ago. Um, one of my friends wanted to had a problem that she wanted to solve. But the thing is, she got stuck on incorporation and taxes and all these things, and she's and it this what is this? She got discouraged from starting a startup because she's thinking about all of
Right.
these other things.
Yeah.
And you said you didn't incorporate; you just started selling. Isn't that one of your methods on how
Yeah,
to be
yeah,
scrappy?
yeah. I mean, it's definitely not a textbook recommendation, right? But there's so many things that are needed. When you think about building a startup, that it can be very yeah, scary, and so sometimes we get stuck with all these different details. We get stuck by the paralysis by analysis. So
There
sometimes
you go.
it's we got to think a little less and just act a bit more. Hopefully, you don't do anything illegal. That's very important. But there's a lot of opportunity to just get things done and not worry about the details.
Yeah, but who reads textbooks nowadays anyway?
Right,
Right? Like,
right.
there's really no textbook approach to starting a startup. You have to take this in consideration. You have to be very scrappy and test for sure. But let's go to your tip number three, actionable
Sure,
tips.
sure. So let's see. I think I think I guess being healthy is very important, and health is a very broad word or idea, but I think it's very much aligned with having a balance, right? So building a startup is it's like a marathon, right? So it's super long and it's hard, and at times it's easy, at times it's hard, but it's a very long term experience. And so, in order for you to be successful in all that journey, you need to make sure that everything's in place, right? Your mental, your health, your physical, even your learning, all need to be sort of in check. Easier said than done,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's especially important in the beginning where we're so focused on the work. We forget that sleeping and eating well actually make you even more productive. And so some of these things are counterintuitive, but I think nowadays they are becoming a bit more relevant. So keeping a balance, keeping your
Absolutely.
health.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, I agree with this. Yeah, overworking is just worse because when you're starting your own startup, there are and you will experience extreme highs and extreme lows, and the way to
Yeah,
balance that out is with health, mental health, physical health, maybe even spiritual health.
100%.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. So with health, yes, it's broad. What's your routine? Like, what are some of the things that kept you like fired up, like going when with regards to health itself? Like what's your routine? You're gonna
Sure.
share with us.
So, for sure. So, I'm not going to claim I am perfect at all, but I can say that when I do the things I'm about to say, things work well. So, I always try to get exercise out of the way as soon as the day starts. Um, because sometimes we're like, maybe I'll go for a run later after work or later during the day, but things get in the way in the way of every day. So I think starting focusing on the exercise early on in the day is, I think, it's super critical. Um, and of course eating well. I think eating well is a tough one because it takes some discipline, right? I mean, it takes education as well. You need to know what to eat. You need to like what you eat. Uh, you need to buy the right things, and so I think
Mm,
not being overwhelmed with it is important, right? Yeah, you don't want to go crazy. I think starting slow is okay.
right.
But we all know the basics, right? Nowadays, eat your vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
Don't eat too much, red meat. Drink a lot of water,
Yeah.
exercise. I think everyone knows that. Building a routine around it is super tough. But I think if you build consistency around that, then that's just the best, right? But it's tough. I'm not gonna lie.
There you go. There you go. It's not about perfection, it's about consistency, it's about the practice. And so build a practice around your routines and being healthy. Eat well, work out, get it out of the way.
Get it
When I
out.
was younger, I used to work out like, 5 in the morning, but now it's the opposite. I'm not working out, I'm meditating more, more still.
Oh wow.
So definitely work and practice your routines. All right, let's go on to the next question. Because bootstrapping, it means getting your first clients without funding. It means not having to rely on angel investors. It means not having to take a loan from a bank. It means, you know, not wasting your time going after VCs when the only thing they care about is funding and, I mean, the only thing they care about is revenue and the number of users, and churn and all these things. So I advocate for bootstrapping, hardcore, and also to do that, you need your first clients. So, how does
Mhm.
Pablo get his first clients? Let's talk tactical now. Let's talk about those
Sure.
tips.
Sure. So obviously, depends on each industry, but we're kind of focused on the digital space or SaaS,
Mhm.
or any digital products. Um,
Let's talk about your product. The first one,
sure.
Coder, what was it again?
House, core
Coder
house.
House. And then let's go into the second one. How did you get your first time clients for nordlearn.io?
Cool. So with Coder House, is essentially a digital school. We built courses and sold them to students wanting to learn coding, design, and data. And when we first started, obviously it was just me and my co-founder. I was in charge of getting sales. So how did I do that? I mean, I just set up Facebook ads by myself. Just went
Wow.
into the platform, figured out how to just build it. I mean, it's pretty intuitive when you go in there. And back then, Facebook ads were relevant. Nowadays, not as much.
Not too.
I'm sure if I had to do it today, I'd go to maybe Instagram, TikTok, or even
Mm.
LinkedIn. But it's quite intuitive, so I started doing that. We got a very, maybe 10, 15 leads for our very first course. And I mean, that's very little, but on my very first job, I actually did cold calling and cold sales. So I applied some of those skills, and I called every single lead, and made sure they knew me, made sure they knew what I was offering, made sure they knew the value, and I kept following up until they bought, right? So it was very intense. But that's all we had, right? We just had 15 leads, and we converted those into, I think half of them were converted, and
Mm.
so which was
Wow.
great.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was a lot of work there. But yeah, I think it just, I guess, going again against this idea of being scrappy and just kind of doing it by yourself. Make some ads, whatever lead you get, make sure you close them. And that was how we did it.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, today is a little different, and I can definitely tell you about what's my approach today on with my other company.
Before you go there, okay,
Yes.
let's talk to your 5-year-old self with these methods. Facebook ads and then cold call. Great combination. I think you're doing something awesome here. Great tips, by the way. Talk to yourself, your younger self. What are some of the things you would change with those two things to make it more effective?
Well, I think I mean, honestly, I don't think I would have changed too much. But if I would have to update it to today,
Mm-hmm.
I think today ads are becoming, let's say, a little less relevant
Mm-hmm.
compared to content, right? Which is what we're doing right now, right?
Yep.
Back then, I think content was important, but ads were enough. Today, you need both, and so any company that starts today, I think, needs to even if you're bootstrapping, needs to have content generation as part of the strategy, because that's how you build trust these days. And ads is just not a way to build trust. So that kind of segues into my second, but that's what I would kind of tell my future self or my past self in today's situation
All right, let's
or
get into
context.
it then. Let's get to your current self here at nordlearn.io. How are you currently getting your first time clients as a bootstrap company?
Sure. So kind of going back to this idea where we don't have too much money in the beginning, and but we gotta generate sales, right? And that's the number one focus, because sales is what gives you the oxygen to keep going. And so my perspective now is, in my case, I am lucky that I have some experience in the space. I do I have built a network in my space, that I can kind of rely on activating past connections. And how do I do that? Well, through building content on LinkedIn, and through reaching out to some of my LinkedIn contacts, just kind of either through a direct message, or more recently through just generating content that is interesting for my audience, and that will kind of just let them know that, hey, I'm here, and I'm ready to help. So focusing on creating content is kind of the biggest focus that I have right now.
Mm-hmm. You use LinkedIn through DMs in order to reach out to people. Is that what you're doing today?
So there's two ways. One is just kind of, well, in both cases, building content, right, that is relevant
Mm-hmm.
to our audience. So in my cases, talking about upskilling, reskilling, how to help teams grow through learning experiences,
Mm-hmm.
and how to make that happen, right? That's a lot of what I share.
Mm-hmm.
So once I build that content, obviously I want to make sure that whoever's listening to me is relevant. And the way I go about doing that is through Sales Navigator, which is this tool
Mm.
from LinkedIn
There you go.
that
Yep.
allows you to kind of build your audiences in a more um, targeted way. So it's very useful. I highly recommend that. And so once I build the content, I build the audience, I start to connect with the different connections,
Mm-hmm.
but only when they interact with me, only when there's been some sort of either an engagement, either through a like or through a comment, but not through just cold messaging connections, because that
Mm.
doesn't work, right?
That's where I was trying to understand. What do you think? I know what your answer is going to be, but just to recap, what do you think is more
Yeah.
effective, Sales Navigator through this like I think they call it in messages, or posting in a form of a content, which is what I think you're talking about with the likes and the comments.
Yeah, I think we know the answer is building content is more
Mm-hmm.
important. But I've fallen in the on the other path, where I directly message leads that have never heard about me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guilty of doing that, and I know a lot of people are guilty of doing that, because we believe that's going to give us quick results. But
Mm-hmm.
the only thing that it does for us is it gives us a false sense of progress, that we're contacting
Mm.
people, but we're not getting answers, and we're most likely burning bridges, right? We're connecting with people that ideally we hope for them to be our clients, but they'll probably be annoyed by us by simply asking them things that are not relevant for them at this stage, because maybe you haven't built the trust. I mean, I get emails or direct messages on LinkedIn every single day, with proposals,
Yeah.
with things like that are, it just makes me not want to talk to that person ever
Yeah.
again, right? Because we're just annoyed, right? It's spam. So, but guilty of doing that though.
Yep.
But learning that it's important to just build a relationship first, and how do you do that? I think it's through content, right?
Yeah, no, Pablo. I think a lot of people are guilty of doing the whole DM approach, and it's now overused. Back in 2015, 2017, it was still brand new. There's no Phantom Buster and all these other automation tools.
Yeah.
The outreach was a lot more personal. Today, I definitely agree with you. Providing content that has value, sweet value, that people are just commenting and liking and following you, and then they're the ones DMing you because of the value that you presented on your post, is the way to go. And that personal branding, I think that's how we connected, isn't it? We connected on LinkedIn through personal branding by building our personal brand. Um, and I think that might be your next tip here on how to get your first clients, because that's exactly what you did with a combination of it's LinkedIn, but then you're
Right.
using DM with posting. Two very different approach, because one is kind of marketing, the other one is direct sales. Outbound and inbound combined in LinkedIn, which is pretty cool. So if you are a first time founder or aspiring entrepreneur, LinkedIn is a great platform. Do you think it's easier to get leads from LinkedIn or Facebook? Just out of curiosity, because you've done both.
So, I mean, today I think Facebook is trash, to be honest. Instagram, I think, is still very strong.
Mm,
But mostly for B2C, right? If you have
yeah,
consumers as your clients. But for B2B, LinkedIn is just clearly the way or
the
the
winner.
place
Yeah.
to be. Well, I think we've heard this statistic where 99% of people that are on LinkedIn don't post, only 1% do.
Oh,
So there's
what?
just yeah, there's such a huge opportunity for anyone trying to make a name, right?
Mm,
To do it. The time is now, and there's space for it.
mm.
So it's just kind of a great time to do it.
Yeah, I didn't know about that stat. Thank you for sharing that. 1%, only 1% post. So only one
It's
percent are building their personal brand out of
it's
700
insane.
million, 700 million users on LinkedIn. Like they're
That's
just on.
insane.
Oh my god, my brain just like. Poof, poof. Real quick, we got new folks here. Jonathan Leon, what a nice name. SEO video show. Hello, happy Tuesday. He's saying he's a big fan of personal branding as well. Yeah, personal branding is the way to go. I think that when you mention Instagram, for me, I don't even use Instagram anymore. I stopped because it just lost its pizzazz for me. I'm like, it just feels so superficial.
Right.
For superficial, yeah. FSUPER. I just don't like get it anymore because everything is so like um modeled, and
Right.
it just doesn't feel as authentic to me as it did in the very beginning of Instagram. And so TikTok is something that resonates with me now, even though I'm quite old. I'm pretty old. But I'm still on TikTok and I'm addicted to it. And you mentioned TikTok. Tell me, have you been on TikTok? Have you been experimenting? Did you get any leads from TikTok? And are there any other platforms that you're using to get leads to bootstrap your company?
That's awesome. Yeah, I feel you as well in terms of Instagram. I think I mean, it's a great place to kind of showcase your life. But today I think we both care about building our businesses, and in our line of work, at least our audience, and it's not really buying our products on Instagram. So it's good to kind of avoid that, at least in our case. In terms of a TikTok, I am not. I'm definitely there as an audience member, and it is very addicting. And I do believe that's a great opportunity there as well. I have not exploited it yet, but just like we're growing a little older in this world, and we recognize the importance of new social networks, but I think it's also hard for us to kind of adapt to it in a way that feels good for us, in a way that makes sense for us. While newcomers or digital natives are just so easily connected with these new ways of communicating. that they're definitely at an advantage. And so, any new entrepreneur out there that is young, it's a great time to start. They have the advantage that we don't have because we're not as nimble and flexible with new communication platforms.
Mm.
But yeah, I totally believe in TikTok, 100%.
Yes, so in a way, be nimble, be flexible. Think like Christopher Columbus and explore new platforms. Ooh, Jessica Leone. She's saying, I agree. 90% of my clients and projects came from LinkedIn. Look at that. There you go. More
That's
stats for us. Thank
congrats,
you,
congrats.
Jessica. That's awesome. I have to also agree, a lot of my clients did come from, if they're not referrals, do come from LinkedIn as well. And so I might have to put together a video on that. We're coming close to our time. We're about 2 minutes left. Before I ask my last question, where can we find you?
Sure, sure. So, you guys can find me on LinkedIn. Obviously, that's where I'm hanging out these days. Just look me up. I'll be there. If not, happy to just get any emails from you guys as well. Pablo at northlearn.io. Happy to answer any questions regarding the future of education and anything related to that.
That's awesome. And sign up. Is it a freemium model? Is it, or is there a fee to sign up?
There's no fee to sign up, so feel free
There you
to
go.
leave your details, and I'll be happy to assist you in anything relating the education of your team or your organization.
And for those who came late, just quickly give us like the boilerplate of NordLearn.io. Like, what can we expect when we go on your website?
Sure.
What does it
So
solve?
NorthLearn, yeah. So our number one focus is to help companies upskill and reskill teams in data, digital skills like coding and data, and so we're here to help to make that happen. So that's what you can expect from us.
And why not learn the latest and greatest technology for your company, right? That is awesome. So, my last question, one of my favorite questions, how does Pablo win partnerships or close deals?
Wow, that's a great one. How do I close partnerships and deals? I think I try to be as transparent, as authentic as possible. I try to not sell. I think sometimes when you're closing, you're ending the month and you're trying to get your quotas. Sometimes you feel a little pressure to sell.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't feel that pressure, you can be way more honest, and people can see through you. And so I think if you're just trying to provide value, you'll get the sale done. So just focus on providing value and just being yourself. I think that's just number one for me.
Yes. Show, don't sell, teach, don't dwell. Make sure you guys are providing value every single time, okay?
You
So
said
that
it.
is it. That concludes our show for today. Thank you so much for joining us, Pablo. Learned a lot.
Loved it. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been great, and again, I love your show. Can't wait to see more coming these next weeks.
Absolutely. And until next time, keep on closing. Peace.
Take it easy.